All right, good morning, everyone. So let's start with the mantras first. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhubhava Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamya. ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहि ओम शांति 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 Om. So in these retreats we are studying Yoga Darshan by Rishi Patanjali. This is the essence of spirituality, because we often get confused between religion and spirituality. See, religion is always about belief. That's a religion. And spirituality is about inquiry. Inquiry. And that's why it's written in just few words, and we are inquiring about the truth. Okay, that's why this is a scripture about spirituality. That's why he just keeps on going, and we keep on digging, trying to understand what is he saying. And as you know, there are 4 chapters, only 196 lines. And we are on chapter number 2. This is not something we just read it through. Okay? Religious books, you can just read the stories. Some of the things you can practice, but most of the stories you just only read about and you have a belief in those. But this is something where you dig deeper into it and try to understand what this great Rishi is saying, and then practice it and see whether it works for you or not. Ultimate proof is in your own experience, in your own anubhav. So that's why we just don't go very quickly. Reading wise, 196 lines, you can read it in a few minutes. But to inquire about it, it takes several days. And to practice it, it could take several lives. So first chapter was about samadhi, samadhi pad. Pad means the chapter, the part. The second chapter where we are, it's a sadhana pad. Sadhana, in order to reach to that samadhi, you have to do some practices, sadhana. After you do those sadhanas, you will achieve certain benefits. That's called vibhuti pad. These benefits are not just ordinary benefits. So that's why he did not call it a phal pad. Phal is just an ordinary fruit. Vibhuti, those are extraordinary powers. And he'll explain it to us in that chapter, what kind of extraordinary powers yogis have. So when we reach there, we'll learn about that. And then he tells us, this great Rishi, that goal of a human life is not to just have these extraordinary powers. See, ordinary person thinks that life is about getting the fruits. Yogi says, no, I don't want the fruits. I know the purpose of life. And in order to attain the purpose of life, I got to do the sadhana. And when I do the sadhana, I gain certain powers. But even those powers, I don't want to run after. That's why in the 4th chapter, Rishi Patanjali warns us against those powers. Powers will come, but don't even smile at them. Because your goal is Kevlay. Kevlay means only Atma, the essence of you. When you remember that, then purpose of life is achieved. So Samadhi Pad, Sadhana Pad, Vibhuti Pad, and Kavalya Pad. These are the 4 chapters. We are towards the middle of the 2nd chapter. Sadhana. Rishi Patanjali told us in order to do the sadhanas, these are the steps. He said Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. Ashtanga Yoga, these are the 8 limbs of yoga, or the 8 steps on the ladder of perfection. And first 2 steps, they have 5 sub-steps. Because the smaller the steps, easier you can walk on. The very first step, Yam, it has 5 of them. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. Ahimsa, non-violence. This is what we discussed last time towards the end of our retreat. Today we're going to start with verse number 36, chapter 2. That's where Rishi Patanjali is telling us about truthfulness. But not just an ordinary kind of a truthfulness, just like we talked about ahimsa also, non-violence does not mean just don't hurt anybody. Don't even think about hurting anybody. Don't even imagine about hurting anybody. Don't even consent to somebody who wants to hurt somebody. Got to go deeper and deeper into it. Only then you are firmly established on that level. It's just like when you're walking on a step ladder, you go up and then you make sure that ladder is stable and your foot is stable. And Rishi Patanjali used the word, Sanskrit word for this, pratishtha. Pratishtha means firmly established. He said, when you are firmly established on the non-violence, even the violent animals, when they come close to you, they'll give up their violence. They'll become peaceful. And I told you there have been many, many stories, every faith. This morning I was reading Mahadevya Ramayana. How our Dada Guruji, Prabhu Ram Lalji, he was with his Guru on the Kailash Parvat. How a lion came and just bowed down to him and left. Then one day he was hungry. He was thinking about where I'm going to get a kandamul to eat. A big bear came, brought bananas for him. From where? He didn't know. So that's what those ferocious animals also, when you are established in non-violence, they know what you need, they give it to you, and they leave. So today we're going to learn the second ladder. If our foot is firmly established on the second sub-step of the first step, what happens to us? So let's look at verse number 36. If you have a book with you. Satya pratishtayam kriya fal ashritvam. Satya means truth. Pratishtayam, upon being established, like a firmly established. This word will come again and again. Kriya means action, fal means fruit, ashritvam, the essence of the ground. When a yogi is established in truthfulness, actions begin to bear fruit. So Rishi Patanjali is assuring us that when we are established in Satya, the truth, the actions expressed by our words, because words are also actions, they will materialize. This is the power of that pristine and self-luminous mind. That's why we go to our gurus. We go to the seers and the sages. We say, please bless us. Because when we know that when they bless us, when they say, Chiranjeevi Bhav, Ayushman Bhav, Ayushmati Bhav, their words, they are fruitful to us. Because whatever they say, it comes true. This primordial Prakriti, because when we speak, this is a Prakriti, is infinitely rich in every aspect. This primordial Prakriti is eternally and spontaneously aware of the intentions of Ishwar. And Prakriti responds to the Ishwar's intention. Because Prakriti is who's a servant? It's Ishwar's servant. And the world of infinite varieties of matter and energy manifest. So there's no magic about it. This is the law of nature. That our mind responds to the intention of our core being. But our mind has to be pristine. When we are established in a Satya, our mind is pristine. On the other hand, when our mind is not pristinely clean, and it's not established in Satya, then of course things don't manifest. So our luminous mind senses our intentions instantly. We all know words are the reflections of our thoughts, right? We talk about it often. Whatever we think, the words are being expressed in that same way. The thoughts originate where? They originate in the depth of our deeper mind. Thoughts. Before they turn into action, thoughts flash in our mind as words. When the mind is free from afflicting thoughts and feelings, thoughts and the words corresponding to them flow forth without losing their potency. That's why they say when Ishwar saw darkness and thought of light, he uttered, "Let there be light." And there was light. Not after 7 days, not after 9 days, not after 7 minutes, instantly. When Jesus invoked Moses and Elijah, they appeared instantly. That's how things happen when your own mind is pristinely clean. That's where that science of mantra rests, on this principle of truthfulness. That's how the intuitive wisdom dawns in a person, and which is called pragya. Because pragya is not confined by the forces of time, space, and the law of cause and effect. It is beyond these limitations. And pragya dawns when the mind is free from afflictions and the mental tendencies arising from them. And in that state, truth only exists. And this is the truth we are talking about when you are established, not gray truth or white truth or black truth. No, truth, ultimate truth. This is the truth which radiates outwards. This is what the luminosity is. But we have to make our mind pristine first. A yogi with direct experience of this process is a rishi, a seer. What he experiences becomes a mantra. Because of the pristine nature of the truth. That means whatever he utters it becomes the truth. That is the truth. God has to, or this God's Prakriti has to make it truthful. So pristine nature of the truth, the pristine nature of the intention also. It's not only the words, intention got to be truthful too. Pristine nature of the mind, pristine nature of the word, and the pristine nature of the entire process also. No selfishness, no personal intentions behind it. Nothing can obstruct or even compromise the transformative effect of his saying. That's why I often tell you, when you study the sacred scriptures, whether it's a Bhagavad Gita or any other scripture, just think that you are seated at the feet of the Guru. Whether it's a Rishi Vyas or Rishi Valmiki, or whether it's any other Ashtavakra, Rishi Ashtavakra, or Dattatreya ji, does not matter. Think that you are seated there so that there is some kind of a connection. But the aspirants who are still attempting to experience this lofty state, because this is a pretty lofty state, that whatever you say will come true. We need a methodical practice. It's not that a person who keeps on lying all the time, all of a sudden thinks that whatever I say, it's a truthful and it's going to come true. We need to practice it, methodical practice. We got to apply the principles of truth in a daily life. Daily life means not only in our temple area, not in your home, not only in where we work, not only between our relatives, everywhere. But to practice it. This practice begins with not lying. We got to watch how many times we lie. How many times we even think about lying. How many times you even say that, oh gosh, I just didn't want to hurt somebody. But you end up hurting yourself. So once we resolve not to lie, we begin to see the subtle causes of lying. And that's where we got to understand the term which we learned, Pratipaksha Bhavana. If I lie, I am not going to be established in the truthfulness. That is Pratipaksha Bhavana. Cultivate thoughts opposite of that. It's just like, hey, I'm climbing on the stairs and I say, gosh, if I'm not careful, I'm going to fall. That's a Pratipaksha Bhavana. You think about lying, but you stop yourself, catch yourself, and do not lie. So the practice of Pratipaksha Bhavana in regard to truth begins with reminding ourselves how one lie leads to 10 lies. And it's like an unending cycle of pain and ignorance. We have to be watchful of that. That is the sadhana. Sadhana is not about climbing the mountains. Sadhana, yogic sadhana is not just sitting fire all around you. Panchagni, no. This is the sadhana. This kind of a sadhana, coupled with the proper practice of meditation, gradually leads to a state in which a person finds herself or himself fully established in truth. Okay, so it's a sadhana we need to do. So let me read it again. When a yogi is established in truthfulness, actions begin to bear fruit. So actions don't mean only the physical actions, the words and the thoughts also. Just like God thought, Jesus thought, it happened. Now let's look at the next one. So first one was ahimsa. Second one, Satya. Now third one is Asteya. Verse number 37. Asteya pratisthayam sarv ratno upsthanam. Asteya means non-stealing. Pratisthayam, again the same word, upon being established fully, firmly. Sarv means all. Ratan means gems. Upsthanam, manifestation or coming closer. When a yogi is established in non-stealing, all gems manifest. Okay. See, we like the outcome, but we have to do the sadhana without thinking about, without even wanting the outcome, because outcome is the fruit. In order to reach here, we got to make sure that we do our part only. So when we are established in a stay, non-stealing, all gems are drawn to us. Ordinarily, don't we see that? If a person, we know a person could be a caretaker, could be a cleaner, could be our helper. If we know that the person does not steal, we'll leave the whole home to that person. We depend upon that person. We believe in that person. Over here, when this Prakriti, this nature knows that this person is not going to steal, gives everything to that person. Sarvaratno, all gems. So two terms over here, non-stealing and all gems, are extremely significant. Non-stealing actually is lot more than refraining from the physical act of theft. Non-stealing is a subtle force that seizes our desire to acquire things that are not rightfully ours. And this force, when it's infused with the discerning wisdom, just like practicing ahimsa or satya, it really requires that we refrain from personally involving ourselves from the act of stealing, refrain from motivating others to steal on our behalf. It's not that, no, I did not steal, but somebody else did it and I just watched. And refrain from going or giving our implied consent also. So that means we got to go from the grosser to the subtle to the subtler sadhana. Got to be very careful. All gems, it's not just the precious gems only. We know that precious gems, no matter how precious they are, yogi doesn't care. But it also means the gems are ideals, scientific discoveries, human values, uplifting thoughts, and the virtues of the heart. Those are the gems. Love and compassion for all others, selflessness. These are invaluable gems which come to us when we don't steal. So to become established in the principle of non-stealing requires that we refrain from stealing these. Refrain yourself. Then these gems will show up. Where does the thought of stealing come from? Greed. Lobh. Greed is an extension of our desires. So this is all connected. When desires invade our faculty of discernment, which is called a buddhi, we become consumed by fulfilling them at any cost. And that's where we think of stealing. We want to input less so that we have the bigger output. That's a stealing. Sometimes we even forget the difference between right and wrong. And that's a stealing. And when the discernment is not there between the right and the wrong, the ethics and morality no longer matter. We just convince ourselves. Sometimes we say everybody else does it. We forget our own path because we are so determined to get what we want. And to accomplish this, sometimes we involve ourselves directly in achieving what is not ours, or we just hire somebody else, use somebody else to get it what we want. And we just give our implied consent. To some extent, this has been accepted as a standard business practice. For Patanjali, the practice of non-stealing is a requirement of a yogic life. It's not an option. If you want to become a yogi, if you want to achieve that higher goal of life, this is a requirement, non-stealing. So that's why the materialistic approach to life, excessive consumerism, have really created a lot of burden on us. We have moved way away from the yogic life. So we got to realize this. It's not that we should. A lot of people say, "I'm not wasteful." Sure, but we got to go higher than that. We should not waste, but at the same time, we got to do something actively about it. The resources are not ours. All the resources belong to the nature, the Prakriti. We got to go extra mile to protect, to preserve the future of humankind and the planet. That's what our rishis want. In the subtle realm of divine providence, nature appoints us as custodian of his bounty, as human beings. Because human beings are higher, intellectually higher than other species. So we are the custodian. So when we act like that, then these celestial bodies shower their blessings on the earth. Rain will bring a good harvest. Bees will produce sweet and natural honey. But if we do our part, soil will exude fertility. Wildfires will remain contained. Human minds will become clearer and clearer, and calmer and kind. And we will really find joy in life when we have this kind of a harmony with the nature. So we have to do our part. Nature is ready to do its part. So when we are established in the principle of non-stealing, asteya. See, sateya means stealing, asteya means non-stealing. These gems are drawn to us. These are gems. Not having the tornadoes, not having the hurricanes, not having the wildfires. Those are the gems. Not having this corona. Those are the gems. But we have to do our part. These gems will be drawn to us, and we will know that we ourselves are gems. Then the next yam is Brahmacharya. Verse number 38. Brahmacharya pratisthayam virya labha. Brahmacharya means, it means celibacy also. It means self-control also. Brahmacharya pratisthayam, upon being established. Virya, virya means vitality, vigor. Indomitable shakti, that's a virya. Labh means attainment. A yogi established in Brahmacharya gains virya, the capacity to transmit knowledge. Actually, that's what it really means. Brahmacharya, when you control your senses, you control yourself, you are roaming in the Brahma, Brahmacharya. And all this knowledge, whose knowledge is it? It is Brahm's knowledge. It's God's knowledge. Of course, when you are connected, you will have that knowledge. There's no other way. Just like if my phone is fully connected and is being charged, that electricity is flowing and it will get charged. There's no other way. The same way when I am roaming in Brahma, Brahma is everywhere. But first I have to learn how to control myself, because I am losing the virya into this world. Sensuality, sexuality, obsessive thoughts, obsessiveness, excessiveness, materialism. We are just draining our vitality. So the practice of brahmacharya results in the achievement of vigor, vitality. We become siddha actually. Siddh is that is an accomplished being. With brahmacharya, you become siddh. As a siddh, we are capable of transmitting knowledge, yogic experience to the aspirants who embody humility. In other words, we can guide and awaken our fellow beings through Shakti Path also. This Virya Labha is a Shakti Path also. Transmission of spiritual energy. So Brahmacharya, just don't think that it's just a celibacy. That's a very loose meaning of it and a very small meaning of it. Sometimes when we say celibacy, it carries a religious connotation. But like in a religious connotation, no sexual thought or speech or action. But in yogic tradition, the practice of brahmacharya is very precise and methodical. Okay, so it's not, that's why earlier I said religion and yoga, or religion and spirituality. There is a big difference. When it comes to brahmacharya, the yogic texts, they talk about mind, prana, and virya. There is an interconnectedness between these. As long as these three are fully nourished and working in harmony, our limbs and organs, they function properly. So mind, prana, and virya. Okay, so this is like a practice of brahmacharya, while keeping all of this in mind. That means that our mental tendencies, they drain our mind's energy. Just like a shaky, shallow, noisy breath also drains our prana. And the sensory indulgence drains our vitality. So that's why all these three need to have a full check upon. Mind, prana, and virya. They are intricately interwoven. You work on one, the other two get the benefit. You let loose one, the other two also become weak. That's why in Hatha Yoga, Pranayama, Mantra Sadhana, they really talk about it quite a bit. Okay, through the mantra also, the Kundalini Shakti can be aroused. But over here in the Raj Yoga, the meditation. And Pranayama again, Pranayama is in Raj Yoga also. And especially the Agnisar. And you all have learned the Prachadharan, Vidharan, Pranayam, Shambhavi Mudras. Those are all need to be practiced. These techniques, they bring the forces of our mind, prana, and body's vital energy to a state of balance. So this is what the sadhana we need to do. Only then we'll experience this Shaktipat. Only then we will experience that, yes, there is a powerful hand who is protecting us from all the obstacles. At that point, we are able to pass on what we have received from experienced masters. It's not just ours, we like to transmit to others also. Okay? So, Brahmacharya, it's not just a word, it is a big philosophy. Brahmacharya pratishtayam virya labha. Okay? So, virya, sometimes people don't understand this term virya also. That's why I told you that it means vigor, vitality, and Shakti. Shakti. Okay. So let's move on. Verse number 39. The next yam is aprigraha. Aprigraha, sathairya, janam kanthata, sambodha. Aprigraha, non-possessiveness, non-holding. Sathairya, firmness, steadiness. Janam means birth. Kanthata, why? Sambodha, complete understanding. See, some means complete understanding, not just a little bit understanding. With firmness and non-possessiveness comes complete understanding of the whyness of birth. Whyness, we often have this question. Why are we born? What is my purpose in life? So he says with aprigraha, you will know the answers. So upon gaining firmness in aprigraha, so you have to be firmly established in this virtue. These are virtues also. This is a dharma also. Non-possessiveness. We unravel the mystery of birth. As we have seen, our unfulfilled desires bring us back to this world again and again. But what are those unfulfilled desires? We want to know. So Rishi Patanjali is telling us, firmly establish in this virtue. Because normally we have a desire to be wealthier. More important, desire to dominate others. We want to consume more than others. It is inherent in all of us. And this tendency itself makes it easier for us to commit violence, be dishonest, steal, and indulge those four earlier things we talked about, our own desires, rather than to embrace non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, and non-indulgence, which Rishi Patanjali is talking about. Because we know that behind violence, dishonesty, stealing, and indulgence lies one clear objective. No matter who that person is, where that person is. What is that? Gaining greater control over the objects of our desire. I want more. And eliminating those with the potential to stand on your way. This is what keeping us away from establishing in these virtues. And this phenomena can be described in one word: possessiveness. We want to have enough to fulfill our desires. And we all know desires know no limit. That is why in the realm of destiny, possessiveness takes a leading role in determining where, how, when, and what species we will be born. possessiveness. So that's why Rishi Patanjali says, right now, as a human being, if you are firmly established in this non-possessiveness, you can see why you came here, and you can just make your journey back home. That's how important this virtue is. And if you look at it, all our desires and the possessions corresponding to them belong to one of these three categories. There's no fourth category, only these three categories: Utreshna, Viteshna, Lokeshna. I'm sure you're all familiar with these three terms. I am, because my Guruji often talked about it. Almost every other day I heard these terms from his mouth. That these are the desires. Ishna, Ishna means a desire. Putreshna, desires associated with the family and progeny. It's not only a son, it's any kind of a relative. But normally we are attached to our own kids more, and then their kids. So progeny. Viteshna, desires associated with material wealth. With means material wealth. We think, oh, I worked hard, it's mine. And we get attached to it. And Lokeshna, desires associated with power and fame. Why don't I get respected? I am a good person too. I worked hard. Lokeshna. These three categories of desire manifest in numberless ways. And whenever they manifest, they demand actions. When we succeed in fulfilling our desires, they demand more. That's why I said there's no limit. When we fail, we are disappointed, sad, and angry also. In both cases, what happens? A network of new sanskars are created. Life after life, we keep on returning to same cycle. So Rishi Patanjali says, have a control over this. Be firmly established on non-possessiveness. You will see what were the desires you've been accumulating. How can we get rid of them? How does this happen? Because during the quiet moments of our meditation, we can see this. This has been our journey. It's all imprinted inside us. So far, we've been paying more attention to the outwardly world, possessing more, having more, doing this, doing that. We did not pay attention to this part. Rishi Patanjali says, in your deep meditation, you will know this. Spend some time. What kind of a desires which are possessing you? And the object pertaining to the desire is our dearest and most valued possession, actually. And that's why we are ready to do anything for these. And what happens during the time of death? Our long cherished desires and objects corresponding to them stand right before us. Because if we have not worked on it, it's still there, and it's just standing in front of us when we die. The frail body, depleted brain, frightened mind, they are overwhelmed at that time. And finally, what happens? The most prominent among all the possessions and desires emerges and dominates our consciousness. And our life force is absorbed into this consciousness. And of course, the rebirth is the reversal of this process. We come back again in the same circumstances because we did not work on it. So how do we use Pratipaksh Bhavna in this? Because he told us, cultivate the Pratipaksh Bhavna. This will help you to establish firmly on these virtues. So in practice, non-possessiveness involves renouncing our desires and aversions. We got to do little introspection. We need to know what I need to renounce. With the help of Pratipaksha Bhavana, Vairagya and meditation, we identify what is it? What could be the most prominent desire I had that I am in this body? And I need to get rid of it. And eventually you will see with this Pratipaksha Bhavana, you will eliminate all of the desires, the worldly desires I'm talking about. As we progress in the practice of aparigraha, we begin to see our subtler and more potent mental possessions. We know we must renounce them, otherwise they will drag us back into yet another helpless birth. And this sadhana needs to be done as a human being. So that's why he says when we are fully established in non-possessiveness, aparigraha, we know that nothing can drag us into the cycle of birth and death. Nothing. So the level of firmness in aparigraha enables us to intuit the mental contents of others also. The yogis of this caliber, so not their own mind, because they are connected with everything else also, everybody else also. Yogis of this caliber are the perfect guides and the torch bearers for seekers. These are the gurus or the Satgurus. They have a compassion for people like us. Maybe we cannot find out what they say. No, this isn't. This is the sadhana you need to do. So that with the help of this sadhana, you will attain God. Let me go back to that definition. He says, with firmness in non-possessiveness, aparigraha, comes complete understanding of the whyness of birth. Janam kanthata sambodha. We don't have to run to the astrologers or palm readers. We have this power inside us. We got to just do our own sadhana. Number 40. Shauchat swa ang jugupsaha pare asamsargaha. Shauchat, purity. That means the practice of purity. Swa means one's own. Ang means limbs or organs. Jugupsaha, feeling of impurity. Pare, toward others. Asamsargaha, unmixing, like a non-attachment. So from purity arises sensitivity to the unclean nature of one's own body. And that leads to unmixing with others. Then continuation of this, verse 41. See, these two verses are about Shauch. See, first five were the yams. Now the niyams are starting. See, all the yams are me versus others. Ahimsa, satya, aste, brahmacharya, aparigraha. Me and something else or somebody else. Shauch, santosh, tap, swadhyay, they are the niyam, restraints pertaining to myself. Okay. So sattva shuddhi, somnasya, ekagre, indriye che, atma darshan, yogyatavani cha. Sattva means the inner intelligence or the pure being or the illuminative property of buddhi, sattva. Shuddhi means purification. Somnasya, the essential property of a good mind, somnasya, or a positive mind. Ekagre, one pointed mind. Indriya Jay, victory over the senses. Atma, one's self. Darshan, direct experience. Yogyatavani, deservingness, like a yogyata. Ja means and. From purity arises the purity of our essential being. A pristine mind, one pointedness, victory over the senses, and the qualification for having direct experience of ourself. So these are all benefits of Shauch. We all know when we wash our hands, wash our face, take a bath, wear clean clothes, we feel good. When our house is clean, we feel good. But over here, yogic cleansing is even at a subtler level. Pure thoughts also, pure actions also. Ultimate Sattva. So just like he did with the yams, he is dictating us the meaning behind each of the niyams also. With the rest of the yam and the niyams, he used one verse, but for Shauch, he is using two verses. Shauch is that important. So the literal translation of the Sutra 240, Shochat Swang, from purity comes disgust toward our own body as well as a desire not to associate with others. Some people might say that this is confusing because disgust is itself a mental impurity. Why do we want to have that? If that is the result of practicing purity, cultivation of mental purity has no place in the practices of yoga. Think about it. When you clean your house, you don't clean your house for the purpose of discovering how dirty it is. You clean it because you want it clean. The same thing, no disgust in the mind, but keeping in mind, sure, there's a filth in there. That should not affect the mental purity. In fact, the mental purity will be arisen from that. I don't want to get attached to this body. I live in this body just like I live in this house. The same way I live in this body and I don't want to get attached to this body. But not a disgusting feeling in the mind. Okay, so there's no contradiction over here. So we got to learn how to remove the outer layer of dirt. Then we begin noticing the deeper and subtler layers. Then we start feeling comfortable in this body because we have cleaned this house of ours thoroughly. We have a regimen as a yoga student, regimen for detoxifying our body. We become aware of deeper and subtler levels of toxins and impurities. As a yoga student, we know I need to clean my nose. Excess mucus is no good for me. I need to detoxify myself, all my organs, by cleaning it, some daily, some weekly, some monthly. So these yogis, they came up with that technique for us. The whole body, just like in our house. Some cleaning we do it daily, but there are some cleaning we do the deep cleaning also from here and there. The same thing goes over here. Not having a disgusting feeling, but keeping in mind that this is our duty. So the Hatha Yoga Rishis, they came up with techniques for us. So there is a Bahe and Abhyantar Shoch. Often we talk about that also. Bahe means external and Abhyantar means internal. So outer body layer has to be clean, the inner body organs got to be clean. Detoxify them so that they keep on functioning at the utmost level. The same way the mind also, the speech also. We need to have it clean. Our mental tendencies. Mental tendencies, when we have talked about afflictions. When we have risen above those 5 afflictions, because afflictions are the dirt for the mind. Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, those are the afflictions. So for our mind, we got to make sure that we just keep an eye on it and keep on removing that dirt. So external purification consists of the Shatkaram. Okay, we go through that all the time. And then we do the pranayams also, agnisar also. We make sure that our chakras also, we meditate on them so that this body keep on functioning to the utmost level. Okay, and then mentally also we do that. There has to be unobstructed flow of prana so that we can clearly observe our deeper states of mind. That is the reason we do the pranayama. If our prans are not, there is no proper breathing pattern, our mind will be cluttered. There is a deep connection between the pran and the mind. So the unobstructed flow of prana enables us to clearly observe our deeper states of mind. So that is the reason I chose that next retreat's topic, pranayama. It's very, very important. Because we should know whether or not our mind is disturbed or distracted or stupefied. We need to be aware of these. We need to see, am I afraid? Is there a doubt in my mind? Is there anger, hatred, jealousy, greed, confusion? Any kind of a pollutions in my mind? Those are the pollutions of the mind. Can I think, speak, and act rationally? That's why Rishi Patanjali is giving us these 2 verses for Shauch. Now let's look at after Shauch comes next niyam, Santosh. Santoshad anutmaha sukhlabha. See, I told you to memorize some of these sutras. This is one of them. Very simple. Santoshad anuttamam sukhlabha. Santoshad, contentment. Anuttamaha, unsurpassed. See, uttam means best. Anuttam means even beyond that, unsurpassed. Sukh means happiness. Labha means attainment. We are often running after the superficial level of happiness. Over here, he's giving us a sutra. If we practice this, we can have unsurpassed happiness, where there's no other happiness beyond that. He says from contentment comes happiness without equal. Santosh. So if you are firmly established in it, it will lead us to happiness without equal. All sensual happiness in the world and even the great happiness in the heavens combined do not equal even 1/16 of the joy that arises from the elimination of craving. This is from the scriptures. Practicing contentment means eliminating all craving. Because craving, what is a craving? Craving is the mature state of desire. Craving. It's like a grossification of the desire is a craving. Another term for this is spriha. Keep on thinking about it, keep on thinking about it. So that's why I said craving is the mature state of desire. And there are as many desires as grains of sand on the earth and stars in the sky. That means countless. These infinite desires are always accomplished by an entourage of fear, doubt, worry, and anxiety, which does not let us have this kind of a happiness. So transcending desires altogether is extremely difficult, I know. But only as long as we are ignorant of our true identity. Once we know who we are, these desires, they can't even come close. Because our actions, our desires, they are propelled by deep-rooted mental impressions and tendencies. Okay? So this contentment is the way to reach there where all the desires, they just evaporate. That's what Rishi Patanjali is saying. He says, normally we cannot get rid of the desires, but contentment is the way out. Contentment, this is enough. This is enough. The practice of contentment begins with a conscious decision. This doesn't happen with the blessing of somebody. Consciously, we have to decide not to fixate on the fruits of our actions. That's where it starts. Because we have been brainwashed. You're doing something, you should get something. Otherwise, don't do it. Or do less and get more. But over here, the yogi is telling us that consciously make a decision not to fixate on the fruit of the action. It definitely requires a deep conviction that when we perform an action, the forces of cause and action, cause and effect, we got to just remember, sure, there is a purpose, but I want to stay detached from it. If not all our actions, every day, some of our actions should be of this quality. And these are the actions which are called seva. And slowly we'll see that any action we are doing as a seva, it's giving me contentment. Then why can't I do all my life, all my actions as a seva? This is the sadhana. So when our actions do not appear to bear fruit, we remind ourselves that unknown factors are far more powerful than known factors. When our actions bear desirable fruit, we acknowledge the higher reality, that unseen power behind it. Sometimes the fruit is undesirable. Accept it. Think that divine will is this way. It's okay. That's contentment. That's how we remain unperturbed by both the desirable and the undesirable consequences of our actions. Okay, so it's like a sum of the actions you choose, seva rupi. Right away, you just make a conscious effort, but the rest of them also, slowly you can learn Sure, I did not get what I wanted, but maybe God has a better plan. He knows more than I do. Accepting it, that's a contentment. In other words, the practice of contentment means recognizing that there's a higher reality. Have faith in it. Allowing our long cherished tendencies to run their course and performing our actions as an instrument of divine will. More and more we are established in this practice, the freer we are from the entourage of accompanying our desires, which are, I told you earlier, fear, doubt, worry, and anxiety. They go away. The freer we are from the entourage, the happier we will be. And that's why Rishi Patanjali is telling us over here, if you want to be extremely happy, be content. Okay. Number 43, tap. We have talked about tap earlier also. You remember this chapter started with the tap. Kriya Yoga, the Rishi Patanjali used the word Kriya Yoga, tap swadhyay ishwar pranidhan. Again, he is telling us this stuff. He says, Kaya, Indriya, Siddhi, Ashuddhi, Kshyat, Tapsa. Kaya means body, Indriya means senses. Siddhi means yogic accomplishment. Ashuddhi means impurity. See, Shuddhi is the purity, Ashuddhi, impurity. Kshayat, destruction. Tapsaha, austerity. Austerity destroys impurities. From that comes yogic accomplishments pertaining to the body and senses. So the idea of tap, loosely translated as austerity, is part of every religious belief also. But over here, the investigation which Rishi Patanjali has done is a lot deeper. Because in the religions, sure, there's a prolonged fasting, sleep deprivation, exposure to the extreme temperature. There are sometimes self-inflicted pain also. But in the yogic tradition, practices of this type have nothing to do with the austerity. In fact, these kind of practices are forbidden. If you don't believe me, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verse 5 and 6, Lord Krishna's words. He says, Ashastra vihitam goram tapyante yet tapojana. Damb ahankar sanyuktaha kam rag balavata. So he says, don't do these. Yogis don't do that. So practices can be accepted as austerity only when they comply with the fundamental principles of yoga. The term which my Guruji used to use, yatha yogam. That means according to yoga, if the tap is okay, do that tap. To purify your body, to purify your senses, and to purify your mind. Yatha yogam. Yatha yogam means that austerity which elevates you where you have a union with God, not a union with the arrogance. So any practice that accelerates the achievement of this union is yoga. The literal meaning of tap is shining heat. Tap is the radiance of the life force. Tap should make us radiant and vibrant. As we saw in Sutra 218, each of us has the capacity to shine and make the world around us shine. Because in essence, we are the Atma, which is nothing other than Paramatma, which is only shine. So we all are that. But this capacity is dormant in us. With the yogic practices, we can enliven this. We got to learn how to shake off the dormancy and reclaim our inherent effulgence. That is tapa. There should be a tapa at the bodily level. There is a tapa at the speech level. There is a tapa at the mental level. We talked about it earlier in detail. Just quickly, let me revisit physical austerity, observing the principle of purity, practicing humility, observing the principle of brahmacharya, non-violence, committing ourselves to practices that help us reconnect with the pure and transforming power of intuition is physical austerity. In order to do all this, you got to, physical body is, we need that. So austerity of the speech includes speaking only words which are not irritating, which are true, are good and useful to others. And finally, the words which serve as a means of studying and examining our internal states. Excuse me. These definitions are from Bhagavad Gita. And mental austerity is measured by the clarity and joyfulness of our mind. Cultivating thoughts that contribute to the serenity of our mind and fill our heart with kindness fulfill the criteria for mental austerity. So these are three categories of tapa: physical level, verbal level, and mental level. Again, Lord Krishna divides them into sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Just make sure you revisit that lecture from Lord Krishna. Sattvic practice of tap is not tainted by the desire for the fruit of practice. But when we want the fruit of the action and we are practicing tap, that becomes rajasic. But the lowest grade of tap is austerity carried out by a dull, dense, and stupefied mind. It will cause pain to you and to the others. So that's why this sutra is telling us that a high quality practice of tapa leads to kaya siddhi, indriya siddhi. So kaya siddhi means the bodily accomplishments. So I'm doing the tapa so that my body does not become weak before its time, for me to let it go. According to, we'll see that in chapter 3, the human body, in fact, if you want to go and check it, chapter 3, verse number 46, Rishi Patanjali says, human body is beautiful, charming. There's a vitality in it. There's a self-healing power. Those are bodily wealth. If we do the tapa properly, we'll have all of it. These are the 4 forms of wealth. So impurities need to be removed with the tapa from the body and from the senses. Okay, so kaya siddhi and indriya siddhi. And another thing rishis tell us that in this body, there's a vat, pit, and kapha. If we do the tapa properly, this vat, pit, and kapha, there is no dosh in them. There's no flaw in them. They work properly. And if you are not familiar with these terms, what is the fundamental principle of a pulsation, the movement, and the animation? Breath, heartbeat, respiration. Those are the manifestations of the Vata. And Pith is the fundamental principle of fire, the force behind the transformation, like a digestion, assimilation, comprehension, sensory perception, all that. And then Kapha is the fundamental principle of solidity, the force behind stability, the inertia. Kapha reintegrates what has been broken down by Pitta. So when we do Tapu properly, this Vata, Pitta and Kapha, they work in harmony for the betterment of our health. Because we need this body, we need these senses. So that's why I mentioned that the Kaya Siddhi and the Indriya Siddhi. Because Rishi Patanjali is telling us this. These are his words, not my words. These are siddhi, these accomplishments come. All the disturbances, they go away. In fact, there is let me give you, throw here some more words from the scriptures, the yogic scriptures. If you have interest in, you can study like a Kaya Kalpa. How yogis, they transform their body. How the yogis, they really do not age. Or if they're aging, because they know there's some work to be done, they just become youthful again. That's called a Kaya Kalpa. Or there is a Kaya Sampad. These are the words, I'm sure if you are familiar with this terminology, or you might come across these terms, they're all related to this particular verse. Okay, so, and there's a Sankalpa Siddhi also, by the way. Those are also part of tapasya. So let's stop it here. For 10 minutes, we'll talk about just these verses or anything before also. That's fine too, if you have any question. Then we'll take 15 minutes of break and we'll come back and try to finish this chapter. Okay. So any question, Jyoti?
Yes, Neetu has a question. Neetu?
Hershey,
Yes.
there is so much in this practices of yama, niyama, and pratihara. Where would you say one should start observing, practicing, so you can incorporate all these things that kind of follows with that main practice? Because it's like a root, putting a seed, and then the branches and the tree will come through, because there's so much that he talks about practicing everything. And there's a lot for people like us. We are just so worldly still. So
Okay.
how does mind first get convinced? And also, how does mind get convinced that this is ultimate peace and happiness path I want to do, I want to take, and have the taste of it, so that taste will lead me to the further contentment and satisfaction that we are all looking for actually in the worldly matter.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good question, Neetu. First of all, faith really develops with the love. When we
Okay.
love the scriptures,
Mm.
love our guru, then we want to do whatever guru does.
Okay.
Okay, that's where the faith really develops. And it's not just one day, it's just slowly inches up. And how to bring this into practice? Have a little chart,
Okay.
reflect upon it. Before you sleep at night, I think I might have given you guys charts, but otherwise we'll put that chart again. Mark it like a weekly chart, like a Monday. How many times I lied today? Forget about the previous week. Just that particular day, last 24 hours or last 10 hours. How many times I lied? How many times I really thought of hurting somebody? Because I know physically we won't hurt anybody, but even thought about hurting somebody.
Uh-huh.
How many times I just moved away from that Brahmacharya?
Hmm.
So all these principles, these are the virtues. Ahimsa satyaste brahmacharya aparigraha. Did I observe that? Maybe I'm not fully established, but where did I slip? And then don't feel guilty, but next day, don't do it. So right away, checking it.
I see.
Okay. And the niyam also. Did I do my neti today? Did I do pranayama?
Okay.
Did I wash myself properly? Are my thoughts clean or not? So the niyams also, yams also. This is a very practical way, because ever since I was a little girl, this is what my Guruji, he made the charts for us. Mark it down. You have to do your school homework also, you got to study also, but this is more important. Whatever I learned in my school, I don't remember now, but this I remember. Because this makes a person. This is a dharma actually.
Oh, I see. Okay.
These are the values. And this is what I teach to the young kids in the morning class also.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So it's very practical. And once we just look it on a piece of paper, it's very doable also.
Okay.
So extremely doable. It's so fun to see it. Hey, and it's a good feel that I am walking on this path. I'm inching up.
But the mind doesn't want to come to that, admitting that I lied.
Yeah.
Actually, I have jealousy. Mind is trying to get you out of that. Actually, he wants to steer away from all these negativity that you are showing it on the piece of paper, because that's how journaling is. I do
Yeah,
the
but we got to
journaling.
we got to tell our mind, I am the master, not you.
I see. Okay.
Mind is our servant, not our master. It's almost like if cleaning lady comes to your house and she tells you to clean.
Yeah.
How would you feel? Right? So the same way, this mind is our master. Mind is not the master. I am the master. Mind should not do that. If that mind does that, that means that mind is not a fully controlled mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody else has a question?
Yes. Poonam?
Yes, Puna.
Harji, on the Sutra Apigrah, and you said that it's non-possessiveness, right? And then I think you were saying that this whole non-possessiveness, if we practice, will take us to the place where we can see why we were born.
Yeah.
So then are we looking at non-possessiveness different from the desires? How are we differentiating
it's like
between the desires and the possessiveness about it?
Yeah, see, like everything is in the mind. See, the desires are in the mind. The vasanas are in the mind. When we are not attached to any of it, what happens? We can see ourselves. But first we put a light on that and we know that why we are here. It's just like a more and more clarity comes.
I thought that what I remember, that if we had that last desire to be somewhere, and then that is what propels us into a new body.
Yeah.
So now I am understanding that we are possessive about something, and that propels us into. Is it any difference, or is it there is
It's
no
the same
difference?
thing. It's the same thing, just a different way of looking at it. It's the same thing, because our last desire will take us to that place.
So our desire is to possess, basically.
Yeah, now we are here. We forgot what our last desire was. We have added more desires. We got to just actually what we need to do is loosen this fabric of desires. Clarity will be there.
I am trying to, because the word confused me. I am thinking we are desiring to possess something, and that's why it's the same thing, because we are desiring to possess that, and that is what propels us into new body.
Yes.
If that's how we are looking at apigrah, then.
Yeah. So aparigraha means non-possessing now.
Yeah.
So right now practice is non-possessiveness. I don't want to possess anything.
So then that leads to non-desiring anything again.
Non-desiring anything. Yeah, nothing is mine. I don't want anything.
So having the
It's like a baggage is getting lighter and lighter.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what
All
it
right.
means.
Thank you.
it's like having an attitude of if it comes, it comes. If it goes, it goes. Don't hold it in. Correct?
It's not ours anyway.
Not ours.
See, possessiveness means ownership.
Ownership.
Is there anything ours?
No.
Nothing is ours. Nothing. But when we think it's ours, we are putting a burden on us. We are keeping ourselves away from the essence, the reality. Okay, so it's going to take some time. Again, all of this is this is the sadhana. But first we have to know what we are, why we are doing it, what we need to do, and then do it. Okay. So anybody else?
Hersh, Manju here. Namaste.
Yes, Manju.
Just wanted to know, towards the end, you were mentioning from Ayurveda, the Vat, Kapha, and Pitta. Can you kindly just one more time tell us? So the air is movement is Vat.
Yeah, Vat is definitely the air.
Yes.
Pitta is the fire.
It is the fire.
Pitta is the fire.
Oh, Pitta.
And
Okay.
Kapha is like a solidity.
Okay, so how does that? Yeah, you said something how that.
I said that Kapha is a principle of solidity, the force behind the stability and inertia.
Okay,
Kapha reintegrates what has been broken down by Pitta. Fire
okay.
breaks
So
something.
Pitta breaks up.
Yeah. Pitta is the fire. Fire breaks it, right? That force behind the Pitta is the fire.
So the Pitta breaks down the solidity, right?
Yes.
Okay.
See, whenever there is a digestion, there is a assimilation of the nutrients.
Right.
Okay, or when there is a
fire, right?
Yeah, fire does that, right?
Right.
So it's all three got to be in the right proportion in our body.
Right. Okay.
This is Ayurveda. Okay. So they talk about, maybe one day I'll give you
but you just made it very simple, just with the sentences
this is very simple, because
perfect. Like
the reason I brought it over here in this one, because with the tapa, if we are disturbing our Vat, Pitta or Kapha, we are not doing the tapa a yogic way. See, some people, they excessively they fast.
Yes.
Okay, they hurt their body, and then ultimately they suffer. Or even exercise. Right? So that's why all of this has to be done
balanced.
Yatha yoga. Okay? Because we got to remember why I'm doing it. The purpose is to keep this house of mine healthy. But if I create a disturbance in it, then I'm not doing it properly. So this is the only reason I brought this in here. Not to confuse the matter further, but to just
and some people are born with different kind of one element, maybe more than less, but everybody is born differently according to their own sanskaras, and then
that is because of the sanskars, because of their own. So accepting that gives peace of mind, because if all our life we keep on blaming something happened in the past, or blaming somebody else, or blaming the stars, or blaming the god, we are not on a yogic path.
So those are the it's not the impurities, it's just the system of body.
Yeah, so this is
these three, but these are not the impurities. The Vata is needed, Kapha is needed,
all three are
Pitta is needed.
Just like in our body, mucus is needed. Excessive mucus creates a problem. Mal is needed. Waste matter needs to be there, but excessiveness, or when we don't flush it out,
right?
So it's needed in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So when
Thank
they
you.
are working in harmony, this Vata,
Yeah.
Pitta and Kapha, they
Yeah.
keep us healthy, strong, and energetic.
Right.
So in
Right.
in
Thank
other
you.
words, they got to be, their functions got to be balanced. And that's how we know the health of our heart, our lungs, our liver, and other internal organs. Even the health of our respiratory, circulatory systems, nervous system, endocrine systems, all the systems. Okay. So maybe one of these days I'll just more elaborate talk if you want it. But if this is enough, then I'll just shut up.
We'll come back.
Okay.
We'll come back at 12:50.
Yeah. So 12:34. So let's just come back in 15 minutes. Stretch. Okay, let me just say the mantra and then we'll start with verse number 44. Om Sahnavavatu Sahno Bhunaktu Saviryam Karvavahi Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi Om Shanti 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 Om. So we've been talking about Yam and the Niyams. So according to Rishi Patanjali, when we are firmly established in these, then we see that we are progressing on this path. We see a very clear movement, upward movement. Okay, so niyams, see, yams were ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, and the niyams are shauch, santosh, tap. Now is swadhyay. Swadhyay. So this also we talked about because Kriya Yoga is Tapu Swadhyaya Ishwar Pranidhan. The last three names together, he gave the name Kriya Yoga. So let's look at it and the definition of firmness or firmly established in Swadhyaya. What does it do to us? Swadhyayat Isht Devata Samparyoga. Swadhyayat, that's it, study. It means study of the scriptures also, and ultimately it means the self-study. Swa Adhyay. Swa means your own, Adhyay means study. Isht. Isht means desirable or capable of guiding and enlightening. Isht. Devata, the bright being, or the intrinsic power of Dev. Samparyoga, union or interaction with. So from self-study comes the opportunity to be in the company of bright beings of our own choice. So these three niyams play a key role in enabling us to succeed in our practice. The others are important too, but these are the reason he is revisiting because they are key. So self-study gives us the opportunity to be in the company of a bright being of our choice, to Ishtadevata. Bright beings are the rishis and the siddhs. Why do they visit the sadhak? Because they want to encourage us when we are on this path. We saw Patanjali's Ishwar or God is radically different from the idea of God conceived by various religions. Ishwar is not an individuated entity, according to Rishi Patanjali. He said it's all pervading, omniscient being. It is beyond time, space, and law of cause and effect. Ishwar is an absolute reality. It is beyond cognition. That means the mind and the senses cannot comprehend Ishwar. This reality does not visit anyone because it permeates all times, places, and entities. It's here, but we cannot see it because Ishwar is always seeing us. So that's why Patanjali avoided the term Ishwar in this verse. Instead, he used the word Isht Devta, deity of our preference. That's why in yogic tradition, Isht Devta is given to us by a guru. That's your Isht Devta. The most precise translation of this sutra is self-study results in having darshan of the deity of our preference. Darshan. That means you see it. So darshan is literally means seeing or even comprehending. You feel the presence of your Ishta. Because God is everywhere, we don't see it, but your Ishta Devata, you see it. So that's what he is trying to tell us. It's like a Ishwar. It's very important to understand the difference between the Ishwar and the Ishta Devata. Because this Ishta Devata carries a hint of individuatedness. And Ishwar does not. Ishwar is universal, it's omnipotent, omniscient. Ishta Devata does two things for you. It pulls Ishwar towards us and it pushes us towards the Ishwar. So there's like a very personal relationship with the Ishta Devata. And this happens when this highest samadhi dawns on us. See, Devata means essence of Dev, essential attributes of Dev. Dev means shining being, bright being. So this is like a essential attribute that makes a bright being bright. That's a Ishta Devata. And we have chosen that. The essential brilliance of the highest being we choose to imbibe. These are the Ishta Devata could be Prakriti Le, Videha, God incarnate, whatever our Guru tells us, who's your Ishta Devata. At this ashram, our Ishta Devata is Yogeshwar Prabhu Ram Lalji. And he is the one who gives the darshan to us. So this is a Ishta Devata. Every ashram, they got their own Ishta Devata. Because form is needed for people like us to do the sadhana. So these accomplished beings emerge from Prakriti because they have they know that aspirants like us, we need somebody to look at. Because these Ishta Devatas, they are free of the 5 afflictions. They are absolutely pure. They are unobstructed. They can come and go wherever they want to. That's why they are called Prakriti Laya. They have become masters of not just only their body, Videha, they have become the masters of the Prakriti. They can go into the Surya Lok, into the Chandra Lok, or even beyond that, wherever they want to go. So they have the ability to see both the unmanifested and the manifest. These are the Ishta Devatas. They are transcendent beings. They have transcended the time and space. There's no barrier on them. This is why these beings are self-luminous, Devata. These are also called the rishis and the seers. That's why the Guru always gives us not only the Ishta Devata, Guru gives us the mantra also. With the help of the mantra, with the help of that Anahad Nad, we can climb up on this ladder of spirituality. Anahad Nad. We learned that word before when we talked about Om. So When we do jap of a particular mantra for a long time without interruption and with reverence, we eventually reach a high level of mental absorption in the mantra and the Ishta Devta appears. And that's why this is called Samapati also. That word also we learned in the first chapter. The essence of the seer, the power of seeing itself, occupies our awareness along with the seer's name and form. So we need the name and we need the form. So Guru gives us a mantra and Guru gives us the Ishta Devta. So this Swadhyaya results. So it's not merely learning the books or the scriptures. Ultimately, what is the essence of the scriptures we got to see and practice? And there's a vision of the deity of our choice. In the beginning stages, experiences pertaining to the Devata, Ishta Devata, may be fleeting. We might think that I'm imagining it. Or it may occur in the dreams only. These experiences may be remingled with our mental tendencies. So clarity is not there. We don't see the spiritual value to it. But because of the denseness of our tamas. But if we sincerely, consistently engage ourselves in the practice of yam and the niyams, most importantly, the tapa, we keep on purifying ourselves. We expand the quality and the capacity of our mind. And eventually we receive a clearer, purer vision of the seer and the devta of our choice. So this is like we need to do the sadhana, proper sadhana. It will not be obstructed by our mental conditioning. Initially, we might think that it's our mental obstructions are covering it, but eventually it won't. Even in our waking state, it's not only in our dream or during meditation. In our waking state, we'll be able to experience the subtle counterpart of the divine radiance. That's where we read about in the scriptures the Akashvani. Naradji comes, Brahmaji comes in certain aspirants' lives. Ishtadevta. Each time we gain these experiences, our capacities expand until one day we are able to comprehend the essence of divinity. And the Ishtadevata who embodies it. Those who have reached this level of realizations are called the Siddhs. These are the Siddh according to this tradition, the accomplished ones. So self-study enables us to see and live in the company of the bright beings, rishis and siddhs, who are their embodiment of brilliance. And each time we come in touch with these bright beings, our consciousness is elevated to the new height. And this is the term which is used often, buddhi sattva. We no longer see Ishwar outside of us or ourselves outside of Ishwar. We realize the guiding grace of Ishwar has always been with us. And that this divine grace grants us lasting fulfillment and ultimate freedom. But we got to keep on working on humility, surrender to Ishwar. This is the one which really opens the floodgates of this kind of experience. Okay? So if we have a glimpse and we become arrogant about it, that's where it stops also. Okay, humility and surrender to Ishwar. Then he says, the last one, Ishwar Pranidhan. So you remember, Shauch, Santosh, Tap, Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhan. That's why I said the humility and gratitude. So number 45, Samadhi Siddhi Ishwar Pranidhanat. Samadhi is the state of mind beyond cognition. That is Samadhi. You have transcended the mind, transcended the intellect. Siddhi means yogic accomplishment. Ishwar, you already know, the all-pervading divine being beyond time and space, and absolutely untouched with afflictions. Pranidhanat, from trustful surrender. From trustful surrender to Ishwar comes Samadhi. So we talked about Samadhi quite a bit in the Samadhi Path, the first chapter, especially the verses 23 to 29. In fact, he is repeating this sutra. This was verse number 23 in chapter 1. This is very significant because the tradition of sutra style writing demands that author avoids repetition. But over here we see the repetition. So he is quite precise in regarding trustful surrender as the doorway to the highest Samadhi. He wanted to make it point to us. Just like in Samadhi Path, again he's saying that to us. So we need to surrender ourselves to something. First, a person thinks that, how can I surrender to something I don't even know? Or which I can't even know with my own intellect. So for all intents and purposes, rishis, the seers, are Ishwar. So surrender to your Guru, surrender to the Rishi, because they are in essence part of Ishwar. So, but as we continue our mantra sadhana, our meditation sadhana, our mind becomes increasingly infused with the seeing power of all the seers. We get connected with that. We are able to see the seers oneness with Ishwar. And we also are becoming the seers. Our mind is no longer our mind. It is the mind of the seer. Because we are seeing the totality of the truth through the eyes of the seer. This seeing is ultimately different from any form of seeing, because normally we see with the eyes. This is with the inner eyes. Because this experience is all consuming. When we have a samadhi, it's just like everything else. It's nothing compared to this. It annihilates all mental tendencies, deep-rooted afflictions, ignorance, distorted self-identity, attachment, aversion, fear. All of it goes away when we are established in this samadhi state. And these kind of seers, they are also called Mahapret. This is again, there's a technical term. Highest caliber seer is called Mahapret. Maha means great, Pret means gone forever. That means who's dead. Mahapret is one so well dead. Dead means dead to the ignorance is dead. This ahankar, which egoism, which we are so much, we are, excuse me, it's just gone in them. There's no ignorance, there's no egoism. So Mahapret is one so well dead that there is no possibility of being reborn as a human being. Like a Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Rudra, those are called Mahaprets. Nameless, formless, indescribable, transcendental beings. That's how they are, Mahapret. So rishis are the eyes of Ishwar, figuratively speaking, rishis. The attempt we make to see Ishwar through the eyes of these rishis is yoga sadhana. Because with our own knowledge, with our own buddhi, we cannot see God. But through the eyes of the seers, we can see it. And that's why this connection is needed. When we invest all our physical and mental resources in our practice, most importantly, in the practice of tap and swadhyaya, and become exhausted by our own effort, self-effort, we are automatically in a state of surrender. We just say, Guru, my Ishta Devta, you are my savior. And according to Bhakti Sutra, last week we saw Naradji saying the same thing to us. He said the only thing that precedes the experience of surrender is Mahat Kripa, the grace of great souls, the seers. The seers do not plan to confer their grace on us. Grace is totally unconditional. That's why he said it's durlabh, hard to acquire. But once acquired, its effect is amogh, unfailing. This is what we studied. And this is exactly what Rishi Patanjali is saying over here. We receive and retain grace only through grace. Upon receiving it, we see grace everywhere. The gift of life is grace. Living in the world is grace. And attaining freedom from the cycle of birth and death is grace. So that's why surrender and humility is very important. This realization frees us from all desires, including the desire to attain samadhi. Only at that time, the door to samadhi opens. Because as long as we have a samadhi, there's a desire, there's a churning. So it is very important to remember that this extraordinary achievement, samadhi siddhi, this is the term Rishi Patanjali is using, samadhi siddhi, is the result of an extraordinary level of trustful surrender. Trustful. And this is an experiential state. This is not something just to debate about. When we reach, when do we reach there? When we have committed ourselves to a methodical practice. And each one of us have our own starting point. Some people can surrender very easily. That means they started practicing it long time ago. Some of us, maybe we cannot do it right now, but we must work on it. Where we start our practice of trustful surrender depends on how clear we comprehend Swadhyaya and how sincerely, fearlessly, joyfully we embrace the guiding grace of Divine Being. How much love we have for our Ishta Devta, how much love we have for our Guru. That's where it starts. So we comprehend the transforming power of this guiding grace in proportion to the purity, the shauch, and discerning power of our mind, which largely depends on the practice of tapa. So all these stages of sadhana which we've been discussing, together we see the effect of that is that yes, I'll have a samadhi. I've attained that stage. So these three, tap, swadhyaya, and ishwar pranidhan, they go hand in hand, and together they breathe life into the other limbs of yoga. Without these three, the yam and the niyams remain confined to realm of ethics and morality. Asana remains a set of exercise only. No matter how long you can sit in asana or how complicated an asana you can do, those are just only physical exercises if we have not brought this into our practice. And pranayama will improve our vitality, our strength and stamina, nothing more. If we have not brought this tap, swadhyaya, ishwar pranidhan into our practice, pratyahar will be merely an excellent tool for relaxing our nervous system. That's the reason Rishi Patanjali mentioned it so many times. So dharana, dhyana and samadhi, which we will learn in the future, They will definitely enhance our mental concentration, but they will not have any spiritual value. That's why a lot of people, they meditate without these yam and niyams. All they're doing is relaxing. Dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, they should be practiced, but before that, make sure you learn to practice this also. So, in light of this understanding, Patanjali next explores the remaining limbs of yoga. Okay, so far we have discussed only two limbs, yam and the niyam. Okay, the 5 yam and the 5 niyams. Now, in 46, Sathiram Sukham Asana. Okay, so yam, niyam, asana. Asana is the third step on that ladder. Sthir means stable, unmoving, steady. Sukham means comfortable, pleasant. Asana means posture. So a stable and comfortable posture is asana. So when we look at it, like a first glance, this sutta does not seem particularly significant. Simply by steady and comfortable position, that's an asana. But asana lies at the heart of Hatha Yoga. Posture means make sure that your limbs are arranged in a certain way. And your organs also become acutely aware of the forces of Ha and Tha. Hat. Ha and Tha stand for solar and lunar, masculine and feminine energy. When you combine with these other techniques of Hatha Yoga, like a Pranayama, Mudras, Bandhs, Dharana, these practice of postures, they increase your sensitivity to the solar and the lunar energies. It unblocks, it balances your body, nourishing these energies better. So here asana is introduced in the context of yoga as a means for reaching samadhi. Remember, goal is the samadhi for Ashtanga yogi. So requires sitting in a meditation for a prolonged period. So you can sit in a prolonged period only when your posture is pleasant also, and it's a still also. If the body keeps on moving and body is uncomfortable, you cannot really practice meditation or even pranayama. So in that sense, so he's not talking about a Hatha Yoga postures over here. In Hatha Yoga, there's a lot of postures. But in a Raj Yoga posture is for the meditation. So see, in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, there's another scripture, Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Over here, it said that it's not possible to master Hatha Yoga without a Raj Yoga or a Raj Yoga without a Hatha Yoga. One should practice them together. So if we have done the Hatha Yoga in the morning, and after that we are trying to meditate, the body is ready to stay still and comfortable in one position for a prolonged period of time. So this is what he is telling us over here. So in order to cultivate a steady and comfortable sitting posture, we must take our body through a range of postures according to our age, according to our body, which includes the standing, bending, sitting, reclining, twisting, and inversion. All of that should be done when we do the Hatha Yoga practice. Because we got to make sure that our limbs are strong, our organs are functioning well. And we must practice asana methodically in the proper sequence after meeting all the prerequisites. Okay, but that is a Hatha Yoga. So after Hatha Yoga, see, every day when we do Hatha Yoga, whether we do it before or after meditation doesn't matter, because when we are doing it every day, our body is ready to sit still and comfortable for a long period of time. Okay, so I want you to just understand this, why he's mentioning Thiram and Sukham. That is a asana. Because you might say that, yeah, when I sit in a Padmasana, that is not a sukham for me. Or when I'm on my headstand, that's not a sukham for me. No, he's talking about a posture where you can sit comfortably for a long period of time without shaking your body, without moving. Okay. Now let's look at, this is also about the asana. So some of what I already discussed is a part of this sutra. Prayatan shathilye anant samapati. Prayatan means special effort. See, pra word is always like a special, precise. Yatan means effort. Shathilye, state of being relaxed, stress-free state. Anant means without an end. Samapati, mental absorption. So perfection in asana is attained by loosening of tension, actually. What he's talking about, loosening of the tension caused by the effort and by mental absorption in the infinite. Okay, there shouldn't be any tension in the body. Body should be effortlessly kept in that particular position. Only then the mind can be absorbed into the highest. Let me read it again. Perfection in asana is attained by loosening of tension caused by effort and by mental absorption in the infinite. See, in Hatha Yoga, when we do the practice of the asana, there's a definitely effort is needed there. Your yoga teacher will tell you, keep on making an effort. Okay? Your effort will take you, not hurting yourself, but keep on trying a little bit more every day. But over here in a Raj Yoga, asana is effortlessly. In Hatha Yoga, you made an effort, but in Raj Yoga, there's no effort needed because body is already in fully perfect balanced condition. And your mind, only then you can just absorb the mind into the higher place. So it's like in this particular verse, he is laying out the criteria for perfection in asana for meditation. So two components very clearly you can see. First is the effort involved must not cause fatigue or create tension. So in other words, when you meditate, just don't just stretch yourself too much tension on your face. Just relax, relax. And second one is when you reach the peak of the posture, stay there for a while. Allow your mind to be absorbed into that ultimate. Okay, so effortlessly practicing, staying in a posture, and then transcending the body, transcending the mind. Okay, so sometimes it gets confusing. Then in the Hatha Yoga they say differently, but this is a Raj Yoga what we are studying over here. So the solution is to make an effort effortlessly. Okay, so find the baseline and then go from there. So what happens from that, he says, Tataha dvand anabhighata. Tata means from that. So that kind of a posture. Dvand. Dvand means pairs of opposite. Anabhighataha, lack of injury. See, an means not or lack of. Abhi means from every side. Ghat means injury. So from that comes lack of injury caused by pairs of opposites. So Rishi Patanjali is proclaiming that mastery over asana enables us to remain free from injury. He's not talking about a bodily injury over here. He's talking about you can really reach to those higher realms where you need to go. These pairs of opposites don't bother you anymore. That's why the yogis or the meditators in the middle of a Tons and tons of snow, sub-zero temperature, they can sit and meditate. Cold doesn't bother them. Hunger does not bother them. Pairs of opposite really means that. Hunger, thirst, cold, heat, any kinds of pairs, they don't bother them because they have reached beyond the pairs of opposites. These, even there have been tests done, the effectiveness of all this. Even the Shatakaram, when a person does, like a perfection of the Tratak, eye cleansing, you can practice so much that you can gaze towards the sun also. People have done that. The yogis have done that. So perfected these techniques, so their power in these techniques, or practice of the Kumbhak. They could stay underground, buried, or underwater for days and days and days. So risen above the pairs of opposite. Because a yogi grounded in asana, this kind of asana, sthiram sukham asanam, and rising above these dualities, will take a dip in the fountain of bliss very comfortably and very happily. There are Shiv Sutras, it's mentioned in there. So asanas enable, this kind of asana enables a seeker to, or practitioner to transcend pain. But we need to practice it though. It's not just the mere words, practice of it. So we have to practice it properly, sequentially. We got to do the Hatha Yoga practice and then practice the Raj Yoga also. So then he talks about Pranayama. So you remember Yam, Niyam, Asana. Then comes Pranayama. Number 49. Tasmin sati shwas parishwasyo gati vichedaha pranayama. Tasmin, after that means after sitting in a posture which is still. So that means when you do pranayama, you got to be sitting down still, comfortably. Then do pranayama. Tasmin, after that. Sati means only then, never without. Shwas, inhalation. Parashwasyo, exhalation. Gati means movement or the speed. Vichedaha, elimination. Stopping, controlling. That's a viched. Pranayama. Pranayam. Pranayam is a composite word. Pran and ayam. Okay. So ayam means expansion. Expansion of this force. Pranayam. So fundamental principle of this pulsation, you expand it. So complete mastery over the roaming tendencies of inhalation and exhalation is pranayama. It is to be practiced only after mastering asanas. Okay, so this is one of those sutras where the nature of language prevents us from deciphering the precise meaning. If we have lived this tradition, only then we can really understand what this pranayama is, this life energy is. So that's why I decided to spend whole 3 hours in next retreat on this pranayama. It's very, very important. Only then you will understand how to experience what he's talking about over here. Perfection in yoga comes from attaining mastery over the mind and prana. Okay. Mind and prana are twin and mutually dependent laws. They go together. When one is disturbed, so is the other. And I'm sure you all have experienced it. When your mind is calm, what happens to your breathing? And when you can control your breathing, you can control your mind too. They always say that before going for some Serious meeting, important meeting, deep breathe, deeply breathe. Or even before we do the havan, the yajna, all those mantras are supposed to be while doing pranayama actually, so that you can calm yourself, collect yourself, connect yourself to the higher. So mastery over the mind does not mean resting over mind, nor does mastery over the pran means resting over pran. It's like a stability of one makes us stable on the other. They go hand in hand. So we attain mastery over the mind by arresting its roaming tendencies. We attain mastery over the prana by arresting its chaotic functions. Because prana is the fundamental principle of pulsation. It's like a primordial ripple of life. Prana is as pervasive as Ishwar and as omniscient also. So we'll talk more about it in our retreat. So right now, let's just move on because I'll tell you different kinds of pranayams also and how to do them also. So now let's look at in number 50. He says, Bahe abhyantar stambh vriti desh kal sankhya bhi paridrishta ho dirag sukshma. So this is also about pranayam. Bahe means external, outside the body. Abhyantar means internal, inside the body. Satambh means stopping. Vriti means movement. Desh is the space, place. Kal is time. Sankhya bhi, number. Paridrishtaha, fully seen or properly monitored. Dirag means long. Suksham means subtle. So he says, pranayam, he's talking about pranayam with breath retention. Could be threefold. External, internal, or stopping the breath wherever it is. Each is monitored by space, time, and number. So that means there's a ratio to it. And each is characterized by its length and subtlety. So he's talking about that pranayam can be done with the outer kumbhak or inner kumbhak. Or sometimes it could be done other places also. So he is describing different kinds of pranayams in here. External, internal, stopping wherever it is. Each involves kumbhak, breath retention. Stambh vriti kumbhak. So monitoring by space means becoming aware of the regions of the body. Wherever you feel your exhalation begins. This is our body. This is a space. We should be familiar with it. Where is it going? Where I'm holding? How long can I hold without hurting myself? Practice needs to be done. So by monitoring by time means timing the movement of your exhalation. Movement of your exhalation, retention, inhalation. As a general rule, you retain your breath a little longer than your inhalation. But this also, depending upon your age also, your health also. So that's why pranayam should be practiced under the supervision, not just by reading the books. There is a technique which is called Pran Anusandhan. Investigation of the pran. If time permits, I'll try to cover that also in our next retreat. Pran Anusandhan. Next verse is also about pranayam. Bahe abhyantra vishe akshepi chaturtha. Bahya means external, abhyantar means internal, Vishay means object, domain, Akshepi, that which transcends, Chaturtha, fourth. The fourth pranayam transcends the domain of external and internal pranayams. Over here, he is talking about the Kevlay Kumbhak pranayam. So, in your meditation, with the help of the pranayama, you will see that unintentionally you are retaining, and you don't even know you are retaining, and you are just have risen above, transcended above your body and your prana also. This is a chaturtha. See, chaturtha is a turiya, also is chaturtha. You remember the three levels of consciousness, and the fourth is called turiya avastha. Over here he's called chaturtha. This is a Kevlay Kumbhak pranayam. So I'll teach you this also, the technique of this. See, he did not mention the techniques. He only mentioned the words over here, because he says if you practice it enough and you are meditating with it, you will reach to that state of consciousness. Okay. So first we learn to control the physical body, then the movement of the breath, and of course the senses and the mind also. So it's like a very scientific, very gradual and very easy practice if you do it properly. Then number 52. Tata kshiyate prakash avarna. So this is the outcome of the pranayama. The benefit of the pranayama. Tata means as a result, or then. Kshiyati means destroyed, weakens, diminished. Prakash, light, illumination, avarna, covering. So it's not that light is coming inside you. The covering of the light which you are is removed with the help of the pranayama. So as a result, the veil over the inner light is destroyed. When the veil is destroyed, you know who you are. You are the Atma, which you always have been, but it was covered. And with the help of this practice, you have weakened it and uncovered the real you. So this is like a benefit of pranayama. We destroy the veil that covers the inner light. So that's why in the yogic scriptures, they say anybody who does a pranayama, very boldly the yogis make a statement. Practice of pranayama, you can never go into depression. Because you know who you are. Depression is not knowing yourself, believing in something other than what you are. So pranayama brings this to you, this kind of a knowledge. Because mind is a veil woven of thoughts. It has no substance by itself. If you pull the thoughts out one after the other, there's no mind. Only the reality is there, which you are. So the next step on that ladder is dharana. Concentration. Now you see that concentration, before concentration, there are a lot of practices. 5 yams, 5 niyams, asana also, pranayama also, and now the dharana. If you haven't done that kind of a homework, you're trying to concentrate, all you're concentrating is your own ego or your desires. So he says, dharnasu cha yogyata manasaha. Dharnasu, for concentration. Cha means and, yogyata, qualification. That means qualified, becomes fit, manasa, mind. And the mind becomes fit for concentration. So this kind of a mind is fit for concentration. So mind who has done tap also, swadhyaya also, ishwar pranidhan also, satya also, ahimsa also, has gone through all this. So pranayama is not only an instrument to steady the mind, but also the gateway to dharma, the concentration. Then he says, after dharana, actually pratyahara is before dharana, but he just brought this in there that you are fit to become concentrate. We'll talk about dharana later on also. But he says you are fit to do concentration. But pratyahara, swa vishye asamproge, chit savrup anukar, iv indriya nam pratyahara. Swa means one's own. Vishya is the object. Asamproge, lack of union, withdrawal, disunite. Chit, the deeper mind. Swarup means one's own form, essential nature. Anukaraha, appearance or imitate. Iv means like. Indriya nam, of the senses. Pratyahar, withdrawing from every direction toward a focal point. That is, okay, so pratyahar, abstraction. When the senses withdraw themselves from the objects and imitate, as it were, the nature of the mind stuff, this is pratyahar. So in other words, lacking contact with their respective objects, when senses assume the nature of mind, it is pratyahar. Instead of going outwardly, they just go inside. They retract. See, just like a limbs of a turquoise, it just, any enemy comes, it just takes the limbs inside. So the senses do the same thing. So we must have a good reign over these turbulent senses. So practice on the senses is called pratyahara. And senses are what? Our eyes, nose, tongue, ears, touch, sense of feeling. These are called panchindriya, 5 sensory organs. If the senses are allowed to see outside, they try to grasp pictures of the outside world. If they are turned inward, what do? Especially when the mind is pure, it just goes, absorbs into that pure mind. They won't go outside. So by themselves, the senses are innocent. But when allowed to turn outside, they attract everything, transfer those messages to the mind, making the mind restless also. Turned inward, they find peace by taking the form of mind itself. So more and more, we should practice that, to turn our senses inside. Okay, that's called pratyahara. It is another way of controlling the mind. The last verse of this chapter, tataha parmaha vashyate indriyana. Tatha means from that. And from what? From pratyahara. Parmaha, supreme, the highest. Vashyate, mastery, victory. Indriyanam, senses. Then follows simply supreme mastery over the senses. From this kind of a pratyahar, where you are turning your senses inward, the highest level of mastery over the senses is attained. So by the proper practice of pratyahar, your senses come fully under your control. They become obedient horses, taking you wherever you want. Because senses are our horses. Mind is the rein. Okay? And a person who's holding the rein, the driver is the intellect. So if you remember this, you become a complete master over them. Sometimes we think that we lose something by avoiding the sensual pleasures. If our senses try to pull us somewhere, we should tell our senses, no, I'm not going to satisfy you. We are the master. We might feel a tension in the beginning here and there, but it is momentary. Later on, you are going to feel proud of yourself. You will say that, yeah, I have gained mastery. I did not become weak. When I saw something, I did not grab it right away. That mastery is a lot more pleasant than just grabbing something right away. Because if we satisfy the senses, we might feel momentary pleasure, followed by a greater dejection afterwards. But the happiness which we feel by mastering lasts longer. And we are here to become the masters. And this is the true freedom, the true victory. If you are free from your own mind and senses, nothing can bind you. Then you are really free. That's why we need to practice all this. We got to find the peace, joy within. And this same joy and the peace, only then we can share with others. We pray for peace for others. We pray for the happiness for others. But if we have not found it in ourselves, how can we give it to somebody else? We can give only what we have. So that's why we need to practice this ourselves first. So today we covered part of the yams also. Then we finished looking at the 5 niyams also. Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, and Dharna. Dharna, we only looked at it. In the 3rd chapter, he is going to go into Dharna more. Dharna, Dhyan, and Samadhi will be covered in the next chapter also. Okay, so let's just make a commitment to practice wherever we are. We should not feel that, no, I am not there yet. Wherever we are, start practicing. Because if we don't start, then there won't be any kind of a movement wherever we are. Okay, because this practice only we can do it. We can read about it, hear about it, get inspired by the lectures, but ultimate practice we must do. So now for last 8 minutes, let's go through some question and answers also. If something, I know I went rather quickly with the pranayama part, but again, in our next retreat, we'll have all the time to talk about pranayams. Okay. Any question, Jyoti?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Well, thank you very much for organizing also, working hard also, Jyoti, Mani, both, and for all of you to come over here.